The Asus ROG Destrier chair is one of the most hyped chairs I've had the opportunity to review, not only because of its futuristic cyborg look, but also because this chair comes from a tech brand in a category that they're not known for, and I actually think that they did a pretty good job with this chair. But is it worth that $900 price tag they're charging? Let's find out. The build on the Destrier is what I would expect for a chair that costs around that $900 mark. It feels like a solid mid-tier chair. It doesn't quite have the build to go against the highest end chairs like the Gaming Embody or Gaming Fern, but I think it's a very similar build quality to the Mavic M9, and I think it's a better built chair than the Herman Miller Phantom and Secret Lab Titan Evo. I also like that Asus went away from the racing style design and just focused on making an ergonomic chair look more like a gaming chair. The chair looks sharp. I think it has nice styling, and I like the extras like the logos and tags for the adjustments. Asus said they were going for a futuristic cyborg aesthetic, and I think they hit the nail on the head with that. The only thing that does look a bit cheap to me is the acoustic panel around the headrest, but if it serves a purpose, then I can see its value. There are a few areas I will highlight that you can tell Asus really had the gamer in mind when designing this chair. One major downside though with the build is the lack of a decent warranty. The warranty is provided by the seller, so our warranty only came with 1 year of coverage, which is drastically worse than almost every other chair in that $900 range. Like I already touched on, the Destrier is an ergonomic chair that looks like a gaming chair. The first area we see this is the seat. It's not shaped like your typical car seat with side bolsters that are meant to hold you in place, and no seat depth adjustment like we see on racing chairs. Instead, we get a pulled mesh design. While I do like that they got away from the racing seat with bolsters, I do prefer a padded seat to a pulled mesh design. I will say that this mesh seat is more comfortable than most mesh chairs that I use, but still not my style for long hours of sitting. The main reason is the frame and front pad. While the mesh seat will be more spacious and less constricting than a racer, it will be the least flexible and most restrictive design when it comes to an ergonomic chair. If you move outside the middle area, you'll feel the hard frame, and the mesh will also have the typical foam pad at the front that creates a crease where the mesh meets the pad, and I'm not a fan of the way that this feels on the back of your legs. If you do like mesh seats though, this can be a very good option for you. It has great adjustability, the seat is large, and the mesh feels comfortable because it is pretty good quality. The backrest is going to be one of the strongest parts of the Destrier. The backrest features an open design instead of the closed-off design with bolsters we see on racers like the Titan Evo. This design allows for a much better range of movement for things like stretching and keeping loose throughout the day. It also has a natural curve to provide support all the way through your upper back. This is another major downside of the flat back design we see on almost all racing chairs. On top of the natural curve, Asus also threw in a great lumbar adjustment system. It has a good height range and holds its position very well. It also has independent lumbar tension adjustment, which allows you to change the tension differently on both sides of the lumbar support. This is unique in the ergonomic chair world. I also really like the support pad itself. It's soft and not overly aggressive. The bottom of the backrest does have these little sidewall things. These are meant to add to that futuristic aesthetic, but I was afraid they would make the back stiff and uncomfortable. I was wrong. They don't affect the comfort at all, so they really just give it more of that gamer look without taking away from the feel in the back. The headrest is probably the most eye-catching thing about the Destrier, but that's almost certainly because of the acoustic panel addition. I really like the idea, and it's definitely made with the gamer in mind. I'm sure it helps to create a much more immersive experience for those speaker users, but for me, I use headphones because I'm either in my office or I'm at home where my wife and kids are, so I think the concept is cool, but for me, it's just not very practical. I would prefer just to take off the acoustic panel and have it look a bit more sleeker, which you can do. The headrest itself is highly adjustable, and I do think the padding is comfortable. It has 3 different adjustment points, which allows for it to be useful for both short and tall people, and it's adjustable enough to use when relaxing or when sitting upright. The padding is soft on the skin and thick enough to provide good comfort without getting too warm. While all of this is great, I do find the headrest to be almost unusable simply because it will not hold its position. The adjustment ranges are great, but they are way too loose in every direction, so it's constantly moving when I don't want it to. I found it useful when I'm sitting completely still, otherwise it gets pretty annoying. The recline isn't my favorite aspect on the Destrier, but it's not a bad design. It has a synchro tilt recline with more of an open hip position when you go back, instead of a deep recline that you sink into. I prefer the deeper recline on chairs like the Mavic M9 or Gaming Embody, but I still like the design on the Destrier as compared to the center tilt and knee tilt options we see on racing chairs, just because those chairs are much more prone to putting your knees up into your desk and really getting you into an unergonomic position. The backrest has a nice range and lets you kick back quite a bit. The seat comes back a bit, but it still stays pretty flat. This allows you to recline while maintaining that open hip angle, which can be nice for an ergonomic posture. This isn't the best design for constant rocking or movement, but it's good for more static positions and does allow for numerous ways to sit in your chair. You also get a few locking positions if you prefer to stay in one position at a time. I really like what Asus did with the armrest package on the Destrier. The pads themselves are soft and comfortable. They also have a little bit of extra padding added to the spot where I place my elbows, which is a cool idea and not something I've seen on any other chair. The adjustments are what really make these arms unique though. These arms go ridiculously high. It was actually pretty funny when we first adjusted them because they seemed so out of place until we realized that they did this for mobile gaming. They go high enough to comfortably rest your arms with your phone right in your face. This is a really cool idea and definitely catering specifically to gamers. The arms also swivel 360 degrees and adjust front to back. This really helps to ensure that your arms are supported during your recline instead of creating a massive gap between the arms and the backrest as you go backwards. They also allow you to work in several different sitting positions and gaming positions. The one miss for me with the arms is that they don't have width adjustment and they are a bit wider than I would prefer. It feels like I'm reaching out a bit in order to use them, but other than that, I think these arms are really good. While I personally wouldn't choose the Destrier simply because of that all-mesh seat design, I do think that this is a great chair for the gaming category. I think it's one of the best fusions of an ergonomic chair with that gaming look. You get away from the racing-style bucket seat, you get a chair packed with adjustments, it's well built, and it compares favorably to other chairs in its category like the Herman Miller Phantom, the Mavic M9, and I do think it's better than both the Secret Lab Titan Evo and the Noya chair. Presents good value at a good price. I would definitely recommend the Asus Destrier.